Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very special event. We are so privileged from Sinai to present Dr. John Gray, who is a famous author, many bestsellers, prolific writer, and relationship expert. His latest book, Beyond Mars and Venus, is quite an interesting book. I bought it to read. And though that's not our focus tonight, we will touch upon that book because we're going to ask Dr. Gray some questions, and he is going to inspire us with his words of wisdom. So welcome, Dr. Gray. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm just looking through all the pages of the pictures of everybody. I want to say hi. I'm happy to be here. I hope to share a few insights that can be helpful for you. I've been told that this is about dating over 45. It's also singles. And just to give you an update on what I'm going to be speaking from, my most recent book is Beyond Mars and Venus, which is how the world has changed. We'll touch on that. Some of the things I've been asked to talk about is one from my book, Mars and Venus Starting Over. In my own personal life, I've started over twice. I was married before, 40 years ago. But I was young and I was devastated. Okay. My wife of 2 years fell in love with another man, and I was teaching a class called Making Love Work. I was humiliated. I couldn't teach until I got married again, had a successful marriage. But I married my sweetheart, who wouldn't marry me in the beginning. Her name was Bonnie. She's also Jewish. So I'm not Jewish, but I have a Jewish family. So I have some experience with that. And she said, "You're not ready." And I wasn't. I was 28 years old. I'd been a celibate monk for 9 years. And then I came out into the world and I met many women, but I met her and she was special. But she said, "You're not ready." And underline parentheses, I didn't have a job. So you shouldn't marry somebody without a job if you're a woman, my suggestion. And then another Jewish woman was very interested in me, and we were married for a couple of years, and I did have a job eventually. And then she fell in love with another guy, and I was terribly heartbroken. I was devastated, and particularly because I was new at love. Okay, so my heart was so open, and I was teaching about relationships with her together. And then suddenly I had to appear in front of an audience, say, "Well, my wife is not here because we're breaking up." And so that was a big change in my life. But after about a good 9 months of grieving and healing, I called up Bonnie and I said, "No, I'm the one, and I'm going to come visit you," and convince her to marry me. So that was a 32-year marriage. Very happy. We went through many of the challenges I talk about in my books. And I think because I wasn't perfect, I'm not perfect, but I figure I'm a pretty good strategy person, which is how to figure out how to solve these problems that we experience. And we were able to make love out of challenges. She passed 4 years ago, and then I went through about 2.5 years of deep, deep grieving. Many of you have experienced that, losing a spouse where you bonded. I'll talk briefly about that as we get to it. How to say goodbye, how to let go, how to start over again. I have a lot of really good tips about that, and I've helped a lot of people through the grieving process as well. And if it's done correctly, I think there's nothing more powerful that can open your heart to love again. But we have to understand some of the pitfalls along the way. I do mention that in this book, but I wrote this before my wife died, so I know a lot more since then. This has been the most challenging thing for me. Just a little bit about me and my understanding the grieving process. When I married Bonnie, every year we went to a funeral. Her brother died in a car accident. My younger brother committed suicide. On our honeymoon, my father had picked up a hitchhiker and was found dead in the trunk of his car. I mean, just terrible things every year. Like, we became experts at grieving, and devastating. And it went on and on and on. And for about 10 years, every year we went to a funeral and we went through grieving. But the biggest challenge for me was to spend your life with somebody and bond with them and not have them in your life anymore. There's just, in my experience, nothing more painful than that. And I'm so grateful I was already prepared in terms of a knowledge of this, but knowing something still doesn't make it easy. it allows you to get through it. And I hope to help those of you that are grieving a marriage, a loss, either one. And sometimes we end relationships and we feel, I'm so glad I ended that relationship. It was not a good relationship and we end it. But still, there's a grieving process. Even if you're the one who says too much, I don't want this anymore. It's still the grief of losing a dream, because nobody gets married without the dream that, we're going to grow old together and love each other and grow in love. And when that happens, particularly for women, what happens is they will feel a sense of, how can I trust again, and close that opening. And if you go a little deeper in it, what I found with my clients is that it's not even so much not trusting a man, it's not trusting yourself, because when you fall in love, you think this is the one. And then when it's not, when you're in pain, you kind of go, oh, well, I can't trust men, but really I can't trust myself. And part of all my work is to help both men and women understand that when relationships don't work out, certainly one aspect of it could be you pick the wrong person. And even then, I would say you pick the right person to look at issues that you have to work on. But two, you pick the right person and you have problems, and then they become the wrong person. Many times people don't understand clearly how they contributed to the problem. If you don't understand how you contributed to a problem, then you won't be able to trust that you can create it again. And ultimately, relationships can be very, very wonderful, and they also can be very, very painful, because it's in marriage and our commitment to each other and our opening our heart to each other that we're allowing someone to affect us. See, that's what vulnerability is. I'm bonding with you and allowing you to influence me. Part of my theme in marriage and relationships is kind of get people out of the direction of being upset that you don't make me happy, and moving more in the direction of, in your presence, I don't feel happier. See, we should look to ourselves to be happy and look to our partners to make us feel happier. And even better, if I'm unhappy in a relationship, it's usually because I need to look at my unhappiness and focus on finding a happiness, open-heartedness, and then focus on not trying to make her happy, but to make her happier. I feel that we're responsible for our happiness. And I give people ways to be responsible for your happiness, and then how to get more by learning new relationship skills. Traditionally, and I know many of you are so traditional here, not everyone, but in a tradition, your tradition teaches the man what to do, and it teaches the woman what to do. And if I could summarize it, love God, follow the rules. One, man should have a job, women should have children. And so a woman's going to pick, okay, what man has a job? I'm going to pick the right guy for me. And he's already been trained by his tradition to do what's required to make you happy and fulfilled. And you as a woman are trained by your tradition of, what does this man need to continue loving me? Okay, so there's a tradition that taught us. And although you can still be so traditional, but we live in this culture. The culture that we live in, you can have your bubble, but we're put ourselves into a culture which has basically changed our consciousness to where we're not looking just for survival and security. You see, most of our traditions, very conservative traditional people, those traditions were developed at a time where our primary need was survival and security. And when we live in a civilization where survival and security is pretty much within our own power, you can get a divorce, and you can still get money if you're a woman in most cases. You can get a job, you're free to get a job. All those freedoms are here today that didn't exist in the past. And even if you live in a very, very conservative bubble, which is wonderful, what can happen is you're still in this big bubble of a world that basically shifts your awareness from, I'm depending on my partner for survival and security, to what am I depending on them for? And this was a revelation from psychologists last century, really brilliant, which is the hierarchy of needs. And that we have a hierarchy of needs. Many of you already know about this, but I'll just repeat it in case some don't. It's very famous. The hierarchy of needs is when your lower needs can be satisfied somewhat adequately, then your consciousness changes and you start feeling other needs, higher needs. So what are those higher needs? Simply put, emotional fulfillment. We're not happy. You know, when Bonnie and I, one time we were arguing on the way to our ranch, and this is my wife of 32 years, and you know, it was like a little tension between us, which all couples know about that. And we arrived there, and it didn't have, it had single pane glass, and the heater wasn't working, and it was winter and it was cold. So I built a fire and we sat next to the fire because we were so cold, and we had no relationship problems during that time. Okay, because we were surviving. You know, we need heat. So that's the priority. But when your basic needs for warmth and shelter over your head and food in your refrigerator, when those things are particularly met and there's no army attacking you at that time, what do you need from a man? What does a man need from a woman? And it's very simple. You can see this in every case, and I've been doing this 50 years, every case of a couple that comes to me and they want a divorce. Some version of what I'm about to say tends to show up. The woman will say, I give and I give and I give, because women have this nurturing gene that men don't have as much. I give and I give and I give, and I don't get back. I just don't have nothing left to give, understandably, if you're giving and not getting back. So she's unhappy. Now, the man, on the other hand, when I take him to the side and I ask him, okay, what's the bottom line here? He'll say, John, no matter what I do, it's never enough to make her happy. She's just not a happy person. I can't live with her anymore. I wish if she was happy, I would love to be with her, but she's just not happy. So what you're seeing there, I'll dissect it, is a difference between men and women. Men, particularly in a relationship, they thrive and they feel growing in love when he puts forth efforts, whatever efforts he puts forth, and he feels the result is success. The result is success. And his basically, although women are not always aware of this because it doesn't seem this way, but men are designed, we just want you to be happy. And ironically, if I take you to the movies and you like the movie, something happens inside of me as a man, which is I begin to feel emotionally like I wrote that movie. That's my movie. I directed that movie, and you feel like really good. And this is part of, you know, women can relate to that a bit, but when we're talking about men, we're talking a primary bottom line focus in a man's life is to be successful in providing what's required by a woman for her to be happy. It's like the old question Freud had, which is, what makes a woman happy? It's a big mystery to men. Part of why it's a mystery, and I'll just step back, is times have changed and women have other emotional needs. But another part of it is no matter how good you are as a husband, a provider, women have their own experience of life. And their own experience is they tend to be like on a wave, where their happiness will go up and then it goes down, and then it goes up and it goes down. So you just have to know that when things are really good, they're not always going to stay that way. That it's going to, you know, she's going to, when she feels really good, then she feels relaxed, and I can relax. And then she's going to see what am I not getting? You know, if you're hungry for food, you're just happy to get your food. But once you've had your meal, let's say you're a successful guy and she's happy, at a certain point, that wave goes down and she goes, well, what else could make me happier? You know, it's like she'll look at what's empty. Now, I say this as a metaphor. I tell men, hey, you'll be much happier, men, if you don't expect her to be happy all the time. That's just natural. Think of women like Mother Nature. Mother Nature, if it's raining, you put on a raincoat. You don't complain about it's raining all the time. It's hot, you put on the air conditioner or take off your shirt, whatever it is. You adapt, you adjust. The problem is, in the beginning of relationships, for the man, we don't understand women. And second, in the beginning of relationships, we just call you up. We take you on a date. We do little things for you, and you seem so happy. In our mind, we go, wow, she is so easy to make happy. Now, when I marry you, I'm going to do the big stuff. I'm going to be faithful, monogamous. I'm not looking for anybody else. You're the one. I'm committed to you. I'm responsible for you. I'm going to provide for you the best I can. That's the big stuff. And so if I do the big stuff, why do I need to do the little stuff? So he does little stuff and you're happy. So he thinks if I do big stuff, you'll be even happier. But it doesn't work out that way. And part of what it doesn't work out, I'll just share with the guys, because often if you don't understand women, this is a very important point. It was actually in my book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. One of the favorite parts for people is understand the point system, in terms of, if I do lots of loving things from my wife, it's like building up her bank account and she's loving me and appreciating me, then bank account goes up. So if she's in a bad mood, it's easily forgiven if my bank account is full. It's like, oh, I got a debt. I got so much, I've received so much, I can overlook that little mistake she make, or she's complaining about this. So what, I'm getting all this other love from her. So our bank account is full. So how do you build up this bank account? Well, it's points. How many points are you making? What men don't know is on Venus, if we look at Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, on Venus, every act of love, big or small, scores equal. Okay, so that's why, when I get my kids Christmas presents, I'd always make sure to wrap them. And they know I'm not a good wrapper, but they're so excited. Dad, you actually wrapped this, didn't you? I get a point for that. And I write a little card on it, say, sweetheart, I love you so much. You're the special girl in my life, whatever. And I write the little card, I get a point for that. So I just got 1 point for the card, 1 point for wrapping. Then she opens the package and she gets a present, 1 point for the present. You only get 1 point for the present, big or small, doesn't matter. On a biological level, the way women are wired up is little acts of love actually open their heart. Now, in my later book, Beyond Mars and Venus, I'm not talking a lot about that, but so many people questioned and challenged me over the years, although over 500 million books, I wouldn't know, 50 million to 80 million books have been sold. So a lot of people like these ideas. Still some say, prove it to me. Well, biologically, I studied simple stuff, which is hormonally, women need different hormones than a man to feel their heart opening. And this is biologically true. If you look at it real simply, testosterone in a man, when it goes up in her presence, his heart opens. When a woman is in the presence of a man and she feels safe to depend on him for something, her estrogen goes up. And when that happens, all of her stress levels go down. This is biology. It's real simple. We are biologically different creatures. And so I can give 50 roses to my wife, her estrogen will have a spike. It will go up a little bit. But I can give 1 rose and it would have the same reaction. It's attentiveness, it's affection. And men don't understand this. It's kind of like Fiddler on the Roof, although there was a role reversal where he said to her, well, do you love me? And she, well, of course I love you. Of course I love you. But do you love me? Will you just tell me you love me? He was more on his female side. She was more on her male side, because quite commonly a woman could say to her husband, honey, do you love me? And he'll say, of course I love you. I go to work every day. Why would you ask such a stupid question? You see, as opposed to telling her again and again and again and again, I love you. Those words are magic. And another one that we found out, as women have become softer inside, these emotional needs have become greater. More evidence of that is, 90 biggest industry in America beyond medicine and doctors is therapy. And it's primarily 90% of the people are women. They pay me $500 just to talk. Now, they think they're just going to talk. That's what most therapists do. I don't really believe in that. I believe in talking to help a woman open up to her feelings, help her look deeper into her feelings, and then give her strategies of how she's making it worse. See, if I can't explain to someone how they're making the problem worse, they can't change their life. And I have to say, even if there's some therapists online here, I just think you can't spend the whole time in a pity party. You can't just listen to somebody complain and complain and complain and feel empathy, feel sorry for them. It doesn't work at all. But keep in mind what it does do, it will produce estrogen. Okay, so estrogen, she'll feel better. Oh, everybody loves a pity party. Isn't it great? They complain, oh, he did this and this and this. And yeah, my husband did this and this and this. It's kind of like who's had the worst day, and a little competition there. But that will produce estrogen, but it's not a healthy way to produce estrogen. Okay,
John,
so your hand going up.
John, I do want to bring you a little bit back to the topic. We have a lot of divorced people here. And you're talking about the difference between men and women, which is so important. And if someone's been divorced, how do they start over? And just what you said about recognizing the mistakes and just the advice you have for the divorced, for the starting over who are
Okay,
widowed.
for the starting over group, okay, there's two groups. One is your spouse has died. We'll put that to the side for a second. The other is you're divorced. If something didn't work in the relationship, it's absolutely essential that both parties understand, or at least the person who wants to start over, how I contributed to the problem, and also how my partner contributed to the problem because he didn't know better. Okay, so see, he didn't know. It's so easy when you have children who make mistakes. Well, they don't know better. It's only when they start talking that you get upset with your kids. They just like, well, they're just kids. They don't know better. Part of the whole way to find forgiveness, make it easy to forgive, to let go, is to see your partner doesn't know better and you didn't know better. And so that one little example I gave there was very meaningful to do that, which is think of the logic a man has. He, in the beginning of the relationship, he's doing little things and you're really happy. So he mistakenly assumes that if I do big things, I don't have to do the little stuff. And you think, if you don't realize he doesn't understand women, you're going to think, why doesn't he do the little stuff? Why doesn't he hug me? Why isn't he affectionate? Why doesn't he compliment me? Why doesn't he look at me when I talk? What all the things he did in the beginning, he's not doing. Because women, just as men, have an unrealistic expectation of women. Our unrealistic expectation of women is that they're going to be happy all the time. They're not. And women's unrealistic expectation of men is that he's going to be motivated all the time. Well, he's not motivated. He needs to be motivated. You know what? A man who doesn't have a job sits around doing nothing. It's like when you have to work, you get up and do it because you know you have to do this. So how does a man get motivated to fall in love with a woman? Because men bond with a woman. Now we're on a date. What you have to know on the date is the basics. And I do have a book which outlines a lot of the things. I can't read the whole book to you, but I can give you some real good basics to start. When you're dating a man, first of all, well, there's a lot of places to go here, but first of all, conversation. Women tend to be enormously fantastic interviewers. You'll interview the man and you'll ask him all these questions, okay? And your mother probably told you if you want a man to like you, you should listen to him. You should ask questions. But that's the absolute wrong advice. When you're listening to a man, he'll actually talk a lot. And then afterwards, he'll feel like he doesn't know you at all. He hasn't bonded to you at all, but he's bonded to himself. He'll like listening to himself as well. See, we have to understand this male-female dynamic very clearly. Otherwise, this just sounds like nonsense advice I'm giving. When you're listening to somebody, you're on your male side. That's what listening is. When I'm a therapist listening to someone, I'm on my male side. Now think about it as women. Doesn't it feel good when somebody listens to you? Yes, it does. Why does it feel good? Because it helps you come back to your female side. It helps produce female hormones. Once again, why do women come to therapy? Way more than men, because they want someone to listen to them. That's your bottom line need. Men don't go to therapy for that unless they're, looking for strategies. That's coaching, or they're too far on their female side. And again, they're just going to complain. So when she's sharing what's inside, whether it be complaints or whether it be appreciation and requests for help and some positive things, or she's sharing negative things, it doesn't matter. When you're sharing yourself and somebody is listening, you're going to produce estrogen. And estrogen is what lowers your stress levels and makes you feel really good. And that's what intimacy is for a woman, not for a man. Intimacy for a woman is I, as a man, go into you. You're saying, see me, see inside of me, look inside of me, look at me and see me with love, with caring, consideration, with empathy, with understanding. See me, as opposed to I see you. Now, for a man, intimacy for him is not see inside of me. And some men are confused. They're on their female side. That happens a lot, and happens a lot for men as we get older. Just keep that in mind, that naturally, as men get older, their estrogen levels go high. Now, that's no problem. That's wisdom. You know, estrogen is love, it's happiness, it's joy, it's family, it's the wisdom of knowing what's really important in life. It's love and relationships. That's our female side. But if a man's female side is stronger than his male side, this is biology again. If his female side is stronger than his male side, he falls into the trap of testosterone going down as he gets older. And this is what we consider to be the norm today, masculinity going into passiveness, which is retirement. There's nothing more of a turnoff to a woman than a passive man who sits around and doesn't anything. Women want to see men active. They want to see them toiling. I like this phrase, even though nobody uses it. But when she sees him toiling for her without complaining, that's very masculine. And that makes her feel very feminine, very special, that he's doing something for her. Example, he plans it when you go on a date. He'll say to you, what would you like to do? And you'll say back, well, what do you want to do? No, never. You never do what he wants to do. If you do what he wants to do, you're honoring him more than you. You're honoring him more than you. He doesn't bond with you. He bonds with you when he honors you more than himself, when he stretches out of himself to go into your world and do something for you. When I do something for you and you're happy, my testosterone goes up. If you do something for me and I'm happy, my testosterone goes down and my estrogen goes up. So you want to be clear on a date, be the woman. So don't say, what do you want to do? He'll say, hey, what do you want to do? And you say, normally women who don't know the new skills are going to say, well, what do you want to do? Thinking that if you're very yielding and supportive and whatever, he's going to bond with you. You want him to bond with you. You want him to miss you. You want him to want to get closer to you. You want to get him to desire you. This is all happens as he experiences step by step that this woman needs something out of me. I have value. So, when Lori introduced me, we're so happy to have John here, whatever. See, that raises my testosterone. I bond. I want to give more of myself because what I'm giving is being valued and appreciated. Now, you can all relate to that as mothers and as women, which is certainly you want to be appreciated. There's no doubt about that. Just multiply that times 10 for a man. That's his biological need, is to feel I make a difference. Woman's biological need, primary, is somebody makes a difference in my life. And if I'm making the difference in my life and I'm a woman, and that's the challenge you have when you're single and you're over 45. You see, when you're single and you're 24, your body is making so much estrogen. It doesn't matter if you're out there doing it yourself. You still have a lot of estrogen, which makes you attractive to a man. You're literally, the research shows that when you're feeling supported, anticipating getting what you need and getting what you want, that's that positive mode of excitement and going on a date, you're spending time with him. What happens is his presence raises your estrogen. You put out pheromones, and those pheromones, his nose is designed to smell them and be attracted and to bond with you by doing things for you. But there has to be the doing things for you.
John,
so you want to ask a question, Lori?
I actually want to get soon to our question and answer part.
Okay. So I want to sum up what we just covered. There's the male and there's the female. On the date, you want to make sure you don't talk more than him. And I know you've all been told, don't talk. Men complain, oh, she talks. So no, what you do is you learn how to have a conversation with a man, which is you do ask a question, because sometimes we don't talk. And then as soon as he talks a little bit of time, you say, that makes sense. Now, these are your three phrases to win over a man. It's that makes sense. Another one is, what a good idea. Another one is, well, you're right about that. Okay, that pumps him up. He goes, oh, here's a woman that thinks I'm right. Here's a woman that thinks I make sense. And you can say that about anything. And certainly when you're having a conversation with anybody, many times you're thinking, well, that makes sense. Well, that's a good idea. Well, I don't disagree with that. So what you do is you focus on that positive of letting him talk briefly. That makes sense. Then you carry the conversation 3 to 5 times more. that reminds me of, or what I think is this, and what I like is this. And so you express what you think and what you like. And he might argue with you. Oh, that's really good if he does that, because differences create more attraction, not similarity, not trying to become him. Be yourself. That's the most powerful thing. And having a different point of view in a friendly, nice way. Well, you got to go, well, I can see that makes sense. I have a different point of view, and express your point of view. He's not trained, so he's going to argue with you. And men love to argue. They want to be right. So all you have to do is, when he starts to argue with you, as soon as he takes a breath, you go, well, you're right about that. We just disagree. Or what you're saying completely makes sense. We just disagree. And so what you're doing is allowing disagreement. You're allowing differences to exist without anybody being disapproved of, without anybody feeling bad, without the man having to feel defensive. He's never had that with a woman before, because he's used to correcting her and she's used to defending herself. Instead, there's no big pressure on you to be right at that point, but to make him right, but not agree with him. So let's disagree, be authentic, don't be a people pleaser. See, most women today, there's a whole book you can read called Codependent No More, which is written before Men Are From Mars. And it's where you make the needs of somebody else more important than you. And you do that, women. Every woman I've counseled who has problems with men, you make his needs more important than you. Then you get upset. Why isn't he making my needs important? Because you're making his needs more important than you. Think about this simple piece of logic. If you give more than you're getting, you will always get less and less and less, because you're dealing with a man. Now, if I'm a man dealing with a woman and I give more than she's giving to me, she can't sleep until she gives back to me. You have a reciprocal nurturing gene that says, if you give to me, I have to give back. If you're with a man and you give to him, his reaction is, oh, I must have done something really good for that. Now I can sit down and relax. Completely different reaction. Completely. You can't expect that by giving to a man, he'll give you more. Men give you more when you appreciate what men do for you, and as from a place of appreciation, then asking for what you want. So coming back to, where do you want to go this weekend? He says, where do you want to go? Well, here's 3 places I'd like to go. Have them always ready. Just like pull your draw. You got your guns ready. What would you like to do? He'll say, oh, I know just what I'd love to do. There's this, or there's this, or this. Would you pick? Would you pick? And then you're at the dinner table and the check comes. Don't you dare ever pay for that check. Just sit there and look at it. How dare you pay for that? And women today, when they often feel so much pressure, to feel obligated if he does something for you. Absolutely, you should know the fact that you're sitting at that table and he's doing something for you and you're appreciating it. That is your gift to him. When I receive, I'm not obligated to give back. That's what you have to understand with men. When I receive, I'm not obligated to give back. And then you think fully received. That's what motivates men to give more, is that when what they're giving is fully receptive. And what that means, it's appreciated. Okay, I'll give my answers in the questions. So let's go for the questions.
Fantastic. Okay, would Steve Schneider like to unmute and ask his question? Steve?
I'd like to see where Steve is. Oh, there he is.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for the presentation. I think you covered this after I asked the question, but I'll ask it again, just how you balance authenticity with sort of strategically guiding the conversation along the guidelines you're given.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more I can say on that. I'll try to keep my answer short. To be authentic does not mean to say whatever you think or feel. That's not authentic. I could be, even in a relationship, I could feel, oh, I don't like that at all. But why say that when you're trying to feel closer to somebody? If you start complaining or nagging or being upset about, well, why would you say that? That's what you really feel. But why say that if that's not going to nurture that person feeling loved? There's no reason to say everything you think and feel if you're coming from a place of trying to change them. If you're just coming from a place of saying what you think and what you feel, and it's not trying to change him in any way, you're not invested in trying to change him in any way. Wow, men don't have that experience that often. We've been in relationships with our wives, and if the relationship didn't work out, it's because she's generally attached to her point of view being validated. because men generally don't know how to validate a woman's point of view, which I can tell men how to do it real quickly. It's an art. But when she talks, here's what you can say to her at those times. That must be so frustrating. And then pause. And then here's 3 magic phrases for men. $1 billion phrase right here, guys. When you're out on a date with a woman or you're spending more time with her, getting to know her better, not just on the date, when she's talking, you say something like, oh, help me understand that better. I tell you, that is powerful. Instead of like, why would you say that? You see the difference? Why would you say that? Or what are you thinking that for? Help me understand that better. Get her to talk. Get her to express more words. And then you say, after she's talked a little bit, then you say to her, oh, tell me more. Like a little bit of eagerness. Tell me more. And then you say, what else? And when she's done talking, what else? And just leave it to her. It's like something more will come out of her. It's like, talk less, ask more questions. And for women, ask less questions and share more, but sharing authentically about things that will be pleasing to him. And it can disagree with him. That's what I was pointing out. You can completely disagree with somebody as long as you're not saying things in a way he's going to take personally. You see, if it's like why would you say that? Well, you wouldn't want to say that to a man. You say, well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. And but men will, that's our nature. We're firemen. We want to put out the fire. So if you're saying something that we think is to your detriment, you might be upset about something. Well, why would you be upset about that? There's no reason to be upset about that. That's not a problem. Or if you looked at it this way, we want to be Mr. Fix-It all the time. So basically, when he does that, you just create a space for him to do that and go, well, that makes sense, but I really just wanted to talk about it. That's all. Don't just say, I don't need your help or any advice, but just say, well, that feels good. That makes sense. I hear what you're saying, but I just really needed to talk about this. And then I'll feel so much better. And I really like being in your presence. Just knowing that the things that make a man bonded to you more, and when he's talking, is messages that say he's trustworthy. Do you trust him? Well, that's a good idea. I don't think less of you for that. Another one, acceptance. Well, we all can be different. And another one, which is most powerful, why dating is so important for bonding, is he's doing things for you as opposed to you doing things for him. And of course, you want to feel I'm doing something for him. And you are in the context of appreciating what he does. So now, again, with authenticity, Stephen brought it up. If you're 2 women in a restaurant, and it's a pretty expensive restaurant, you get soup as your appetizer, and your soup is not warm, okay? I mean, it's supposed to be warm and hot. It's like been sitting on the counter for a while. Naturally, what would you say to your girlfriend? That's called sharing. You'd say, oh, my soup's not hot at all. What's yours like? And she says, oh, and then you might say, well, this is like an expensive restaurant. Why do they have such poor service here? And she goes, yeah, I can't believe it. And then you might say, you know, I have a recipe for soup, which I think is even better than this. My mother gave it to me. And then you have a whole conversation about soup. And you both feel bonding. We're both sharing, complaining about something together. It's estrogen producing something good or something not good. So you have this nice bonding experience. But if you don't know you're dealing with a man, the soup arrives. He's taking you to a restaurant, and you say, you know, my soup is not hot. And he's going to take it personally. I'm telling you, on a date, this is where you want to have the best impression. You don't talk about the soup not being warm. That's all. Who cares about whether the soup's really warm or not? And he might even notice, well, my soup doesn't seem warm. You might downplay, yeah, it's not that hot either, you know. But you see, sharing is different from complaining. Now, what is a complaint? A complaint is you're with your girlfriend and you're seeing the soup. And then after you both agree the soup is too cold, waiter, I'd like to speak to the manager, or I'd like to talk to the cook. And this soup really isn't hot enough. I've said better. That's called complaining. Complaining is sharing with the intention that you should do something about it. And men are always turned off by complaining. Just forget about ever complaining again. You want the happiest man in the world who'll do anything for you. Don't utter a complaint out of your mouth. Now, I know that's almost impossible, but you try to aspire in that direction. And why is it so hard? It's because we have an addiction. We have an addiction to complaining. You can actually measure it in an MRI scan. Is being upset and talking about it actually produces high levels of dopamine that are addictive. It feels good to complain. You have to rewire your brain by going on a fast And when you're dating, you can be on a fast. Absolutely no complaints that refer to him. Okay, never any complaint about him or anything that happens to you on the date. So let's imagine you see a movie and it's an awful movie. After the date, he's going to look at you and say, huh, well, what'd you think about the movie? He's feeling a little insecure. He feels like he's failed. And you're going to say, that's the worst movie I've ever seen. I can't believe people will pay money for that. And you'll go on and on. The whole time his ego is just, oh, I can't make this woman happy. Nothing can make her happy. He's feeling bad. And these are just little things of giving someone what they want. I remember when I brought my wife to a bad movie, it was crummy. Even in the middle of it, I said, maybe we should go. And she said, no, let's see if it gets better. Like many women in relationships, they don't want to leave. Maybe it will get better. But anyway, at the end of the movie, I say to her, well, honey, what do you think about the movie? She paused and she says, you know, that sunset scene was really beautiful. Boom. I said, yeah, I filmed that. I had nothing else to do with the movie. I didn't say that, but that's how I feel. I'm let off the hook. When you let a man off the hook, you get a lot of points, 100 points if you ignore something bad he did. I remember one time when I was speeding in a new car and she just held back from saying, you know, you're going to get a ticket. You know, you're going to get a ticket. And of course, she didn't say it. I was very happy about that. We knew she wanted to say it. Then I did get a ticket and she didn't say it then. Okay, she got 100 points for not saying it then. 2 days later, she said, you know, you're going to get a ticket. I said, yeah, I know. But in the moment, you don't want to say, I told you so. Okay, we have to have sensitivity. And you might think, oh, this is a man and his ego. Women, you have the same ego. It just shows up differently. When Bonnie turned 40, I remember she's getting a cellulite on her thighs and she was undressing that night. And she said, honey, do you see this? And she's pointing at the cellulite. I said, no. She says, well, look, how could you be turned on to that? I said, honey, I don't see that. I see you. I love you. You're the one for me. And I went over and gave her a hug and a kiss, and she even resisted that. She said, no, but really look at that. I said, honey, I just see you. You're the most beautiful woman in the world for me. I love you. They're not logical or rational. Of course, there's models and she was, you know, younger and whatever. No, you love her. You express that, and women need to hear those kinds of things. And if you don't feel you need to hear it, women, then you have a problem with receiving love. So you should practice saying thank you. Okay, that's about authenticity. All right.
Thank you, John. We have three
Thank
more
you, Stephen. Was that helpful, Stephen? Just your listening? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Can Corey Schwartz come on?
Oh, hi. Okay. So earlier you mentioned work as kind of a giant way that a woman demonstrates love. As a giant way a man demonstrates love to a woman. And you describe children as a giant way a woman demonstrates love to a man. But as we can tell, you know, as we get older and approach retirement age and children are out of the home, what are giant ways that a man day to day or a woman day to day can demonstrate love to their partner? You gave some micro examples, you know, but what are some general, like, big things?
You should read his books.
Okay, read the book, but here's a few basic things. 4 hugs a day. Just don't, you know, we like strategies and formulas as men. You wake up, you give him a hug, you say goodbye, you're going to go out. You need to get away from her. You do go somewhere if you're not working. Give her a hug. I'm going out to play tennis. I'm going out to do this. I'm going out to, women need space away from you. We all need space to miss each other. Very, very important. So you're saying goodbye, give her a hug, tell her where you're going. That's another point for telling her where you're going. You got a point for the hug, get a point for the first hug. You got a check for $10,000 in the mail. You think, wow, that's great. I can relax. No, that's 1 point. Just keep that in mind. Every act of love, it's 1 point. We're thinking, wow, that should make her happy. You know, we went on this great vacation. You should remember that. Well, that's gone in the wind. Okay. However, if you take pictures, every time she shows those pictures, you get a point for that. When I plan a vacation, I'm going to make sure she's around and see me planning it. So then I can say, after 2 days of struggling to find a good deal, then I say, oh, I found the best. I got a 50% off deal. Women love when you get deals and you work hard for it. I toil over it. I make sure she sees me toiling. Right now in my relationship I'm now in, it's a beginning relationship, but she wanted a chair, an office chair, came in a big box. I'm making sure she sees me assemble it. I want her to see what I do for her. And it's like women need to see you doing stuff for them, particularly the older we get. We're not doing so much. They need to feel like on an instinctive level, this guy's alive. And then when I come back from wherever I went, I find her first. Okay. I don't like go to the den or go watch TV. First thing I do, I go find her. That's 1 point for finding her. Give her another hug. Just gonna give. She's, oh, you're giving me too many hugs. Some women are like that. Then you just say, no, I like to do it, even though you're doing it because I told you to do it. And you'll start to like it more and more. But it's not just a hug and a pat on the back. It's a 6-second non-sexual hug. It's mindful. And then before going to bed, I stay up later many times. She sneaks off. I go, oh, the fact I notice her going off to bed, noticing her, I'm going to get a point for that. Then I'm running after. I want to give you a hug and run after her. That's a point for running. Then I give her another hug, 6-second hug before bed. You see, they build up. These are building up those points, filling her bank account so that then when you're late or whatever, it doesn't matter because you're giving so much. The brain is always comparing. What am I getting? What am I not getting? What am I getting? What am I not getting? So those are some little things. And the same thing is when you're on a date, you hold her hand, not too long, just 6-10 seconds, maybe a minute the most, then let go. You think, hey, you hold children's hands. Why do I hold your hand? They can walk the street. No, it's just a moment of connection. Women thrive on connection. Put your arm around her. I used to not put my arm around her because I feel like, how long do I have to do it? Just about 10 seconds. That's about it. Just put your arm around, come back around. You don't like have to be glued together. Missing each other, coming back together is a good thing. And one of those 4 hugs that you give, if you're in a relationship, an intimate relationship, one of those hugs every day, just, I love you so much. Or when I was out, I missed you. You know, these are little things. And now we have texts. You can do little texts to send her little notes from time to time. Women want to feel that they're in your mind because as men, out of sight, out of mind, our brains can just totally focus on one thing. We're not thinking about them. They're always thinking about us on some level. They have radar because they're designed to keep track of where the kids are. They want to know what's going around. Even another point I get is when I go somewhere, I tell her where I'm going to go. Boom. She now knows where I am. Her GPS is satisfied. I know I'm tracking him. I'm tracking him. I know where he is. These are all little gestures you do, they're nothing, but it's what is significant for her and they're not natural for us to do. Compliments. Notice when she gets her hair done. Notice her glasses. Notice when she puts on, oh, that little pendant looks really nice on you. I like those earrings. I mean, we men don't instinctively do this. We're playing basketball, Corey, and I'm not going to say, hey, I like those shorts. Where'd you get them? You're not going to say, oh, I got them on sale. That's not what you do. But you have to recognize with women, you have to change little adjustments. Don't become a woman, but just understand ways to provide what they need most. Thanks so much for your question, Corey. Okay. I see your smile, so I assume it was helpful.
So funny.
Very much so.
Thank you.
That's great. And I want to say one thing, John, when you're so kind to make the chair for your girlfriend, it's so important that women say thank you. And sometimes they, well, yes, they appreciate it, but it's so important. I thank my husband when he takes out the garbage.
Yes, yes.
Several times a week. But he, every opportunity I get to say thank you.
And also to know, and I appreciate, yeah, you're teaching and it's wonderful. A thank you. It doesn't always have to be a thank you. It can be a smile. It can be, oh, I'm so happy. Oh, I didn't realize you did that. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. It's acknowledging what he does is intimacy for a man. For men to understand women, it's going in and acknowledging who she is and how much she gives. Here's a phrase, women don't mind if you use it over and over and over, just like I don't mind anybody saying, oh, I was so helpful. Oh, you were so helpful. Oh, I'm happy to see you here. I'm so glad you're here. Those kind of phrases say, oh, I'm somebody. Well, for a woman, something you can say to her is if she's had a hard day or whatever, she's not in a good mood. And you might just look at her with a little empathy and just say, honey, you give so much to so many people. Let me give you a hug. It's $1 million phrase, works every time. I wouldn't know that unless somebody taught me that, but I can feel it. I know she gives so much to everybody. You give so much to me and so many people. Let me do this for you. Anytime you can feel when your spouse is not in a good mood or they're feeling tired and whatever they're doing, just gently move in and just say, you did so much for people. Let me do this for you. Let me help you with this. And a lot of women, you go, no, I can do it myself. Don't believe it, man. Just say again. That's what you have to do. You have to fight. No, I want to do it for you. No, I can do it myself. Well, let me do it for you. You just have a cup of tea here. Let me make you some tea. Little things, you see in these movies, always women having tea parties. What's that about? It's little dishes that need to be washed and little spoons and all these little things. the little things make a big difference with women, and you're just sort of doing some little thing. Just like for men, if we want to really talk about stuff, first we're playing tennis together, we're jogging together, we're competing together or something. Then we open up and talk more. We connect through doing. And we have a female side. We just have to make sure it doesn't dominate, and women have a male side. You have to just try to not have it dominate. And that's what I started out talking about. Our culture today has pushed women over to their male side. And then being alone pushes you over to your male side. Anytime you're independent, you're making male hormones. And you can still do that, but then come back to your female side through dating, through sharing, through talking to a therapist, talking to a girlfriend, sharing what's inside of you, journaling what's inside of you. And if you look at all the ancient Jewish prayers, they're all complaining to God. You sit there and say your prayer, oh, God, it's terrible. This is awful. Woe is me, but thank you. I hear you. I love you. Just go from the negative to the positive. And this is actually built into our brains. We're designed to be this way. We have two parts of our prefrontal cortex. One sees all negative and one sees all positive. And when your estrogen is low, women, blood flow goes to the negative. And for men, when testosterone is low, blood flows to the negative as opposed to the positive. So my left prefrontal cortex is always optimistic when I'm thinking possibilities. When my right prefrontal cortex is being active, I'm looking at what are the problems. And we're designed to see problems and solutions. But when we're not hormonally imbalanced through good relationship, we get stuck on the wrong side.
John, our last question from Rebecca before we go into our dating breakout rooms. We've got about 2 minutes left. So Rebecca, please.
Okay, thank you. So my friends and I are finding that the men that we're meeting men are becoming increasingly passive in the dating process. That could be due to a number of factors. It could be due to the changing gender roles. We also have a mismatch in the numbers in our community. There are like fewer and fewer men at every event. As you can see here, fewer men and more women. But the way it looks to us, not the way it is like if a woman doesn't take a more active approach, then another woman will. It's not like the guy is going to suddenly go over and ask the girl out. It'll just be another woman who kind of makes the move, and then she'll end up, getting a date out of that event. So things like I know it's kind of against your approach, but things
no, it's not. I understand exactly what you're talking about.
So
I have solutions for everything.
My question is, should women initiate the conversation at an event? Should they ask the guy out? Should they reach out between the dates? Should they, if the guy says, oh, I'm not familiar with your area, I don't know what there is to do here, how about you plan the date, or you suggest where to go?
Okay, I got 2 minutes and you're taking the whole 2 minutes to ask the question, but I get it. One quick answer, but I'm going to give you more, as Mars Venus on a date answers all those things, but it's called proceptivity. Instead of being a wallflower, you're still receptive, but you're moving in on his space, because these passive men, actually, they're more on their female side. They're shy. They don't, you used to be able to look at a guy and twirl your hair a little bit, and he thought it was an invitation. Now you look at a guy and says, "Oh, what is that? Am I dressed well? What is it about me?" They're not like the old traditional guys who go after women. So what you have to do is be the modern woman who is proceptive, means proactive. You get into his space by starting a conversation with him, and then you create the space where you let him know that it's basically let you know, if you ask me out, I'm happy to go. And then he says, well, what are some of the places you like to go? As I said, you say, oh, this is what I like. This is what I like. This is what I like. Will you do that? Would you take me here? You can ask. Asking is feminine. Asking is feminine. It's not going to your masculine side. It's when you target a man and you go after him and you start people pleasing him, you lose him. Those women that go after the men, after a while, they can't bond because she's doing everything to please him, as opposed to creating a chalice for him to fill you up, which is let him know, well, these are some things I like to do. And also to make a conversation with him. You start because you're the more active one. Oh, whatever it is, I haven't seen you before. I was looking at you. I thought you're very interesting. What is it you do? That's always an easy one. Where are you from? What do you do? Listen to him talk a little bit. Then say, oh, I didn't realize that. And then start talking about yourself more. It's, again, always the same thing. Bring him into you. Bring him into you. Let him give you say things, cut him short. Don't let him talk more than you at all. Always acknowledge him. Well, that's a good idea. We had amazing about that, you know. And then you start saying, you know, the things I like to do when I'm dating is I like this or this or this. Would you like to take me there? You can do that. That's a request. Asking for what you want is not masculine. It's feminine. It's just not traditional. It's not traditional because men knew what women wanted. Culture told you how to do this. That culture is gone. Okay. These men are passive. Their testosterone's going down. You know, when you practice this stuff in your relationship, I'll say this to the men, if you get your testosterone tested and you're in the average range, you've dropped 50% from what you were as a young man. And, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. For myself at 70 years old, mine are 50% higher than when I was a young man. You know, the dynamic energy, the wake up, feel good, get out there, all that stuff, that's still there for me. Like it was more than when I was a young guy, and my ability to be intimate is way more than when I was a young guy. So this is relationship skills that where women are going more to their female side, they bring out that man, but it's a job. You've got to fix them. I mean, there's a reality, but fixing them is fixing you because you're the man. You wouldn't find that situation in the world if women weren't more on their male side and running after men. And you're right, it's tough. All these women are making themselves available. And now for some of you, you know, traditionally, some of you don't have sex, but some of you do. Definitely don't have sex with a man that you just to please him. You have sex at a time when your requirements for you to have sex are completely fulfilled. But a magic phrase you can do when a guy, if he's like he feels, in the world, men feel so much pressure to have sex, not just biological pressure. That's a natural thing, but it's not like overwhelming like it is today because they give this propaganda that everybody's having sex. Okay, everybody's having sex. Why aren't you having sex? What's wrong with you? At least you didn't have that in the past. So a man could stay somewhat cool and know I got to do stuff to win her over. Then finally I'll marry her and have sex. Okay, but that's one of our major motivating factors. So just keep that in mind. When a guy's making moves on you, regardless where you are, he says he wants to make the moves. You have to stand a clear boundary. When you set a boundary in a loving way, men respect you more and they're more attracted to you. And they will stay attracted to you if you clearly set a loving boundary with a phrase, something like this. If he kisses you goodnight, or he's just saying, oh, I really want to spend more time with you and whatever. I'd like to spend more time with you. We'll see. Don't be pushing after him, but I liked it. I had really fun. We'll see. Don't go after him. That's the whole energy of this. But let's see. Then he said, well, he's making his moves have sex. You go, oh, no. I'm an old-fashioned girl. I don't have sex right away. I have requirements. But I want you to know if those requirements were met, my body is so excited to have sex with you. Just to say that. Then it relieves him of his ego crashing, which is I didn't succeed in getting laid. It's just a huge pressure on our males. Just that she has said, oh, I would love to have sex. My body really wants to have sex with you, but I have to control myself. And then he'll say, why? It just doesn't work out for me. Or why? Because my tradition is this, and I need you to respect that, but I can't wait for us to get closer and closer. You see, he needs to feel that he has done a good job. And today there's so much pressure on men to feel that they're a man if they have sex the first night, which I discourage everybody from ever doing, regardless of how conservative you are with this whole thing. You need to wait quite a while until literally your body is truly wanting to have sex as much as he wants it. And it shouldn't be to please him. And one of the ways you know that you're way off track is for some of you, you've had the experience, not all, where you had sex with a man and then he didn't call you back. That's a big deal. And he was so wonderful and so interested in you and you had sex and then he was the wrong guy. And if that's happened more than twice, you have what's called a daddy issue. And that's a simple way of putting it. You have anxious bonding with your father. And a part of you gets turned on to men who are not available. If ever you're turned on to a man and he doesn't even do anything for you, and he hasn't gotten to know you, and you haven't felt safe with him, and you're still turned on to him, he's the wrong guy. You need to run the other direction. And if you have that pattern of being turned on physically, so you're not designed to be turned on to men physically right away. You're designed as women to first feel safe, to feel seen, to feel heard, to express who you are, to feel the support and security that you need. Then mind, naked heart, then you get naked physically. That's going to be healthy arousal. Anything before that is part of your anxious bonding with your father, where you're trying to seek to find the father and please him. So you find yourself being turned on to men who haven't done anything for you. There's women that get turned on to married men, get turned on to men who are not available, men who ride motorcycles, wearing tattoos, dangerous men, drug addicts. And you have these little antennas that are still seeking out daddy to satisfy him, please him, win him over. That's people pleaser extreme. And you just have to know if that's a case inside of you, you can fix it. You don't have to do 10 years of therapy with your father. You fix it by knowing, oh, if I'm turned on to somebody and they're not yet having done wonderful things for me and I don't feel safe with them, they're the wrong guy. So if you have that pattern, then the right guy for you is the guy who's interested in you and you're not sexually interested in him at all. That's the healthy man. If you have that pattern, then you have to go through a period of having a man do things for you, asking for what you want, practicing all the things I teach about being authentic in a positive way, asking for more, having him do things for you, and he will do things for you. And you won't feel the need to please him because you're not sexually attracted to him. But here's somebody who's willing to take you on dates and do nice things for you. And in the beginning, you feel, oh, he's boring because there's no excitement there because you're addicted to the excitement of trying to please somebody that you can't please. So that's called a daddy issue. So with those men, they'll find you, they're interested in you. You'll always feel they're beneath you or they're boring or they got a good job, they're respectful, they're nice, but they just don't turn you on. That's the right guy for you. But then you have to bring out the masculine in him by learning these skills that I'm teaching, which is asking for more and appreciating what you get and asking for more and appreciating what you get, learning how to open up and share yourself and be vulnerable with him. You will find out you get turned on to him. It will happen.
Thank you, John. Would you come back another time just for a question and answer with these people? Because there's so many more questions.
Yeah, well, there's a big, huge topic. This is a gigantic topic. My information is gigantic because it works. You have to look at the whole picture, all these books, but I will happy to do it. But here's Mars, Beyond Mars, and here's these two books here, which is really helpful, what I've talked about. I didn't really get into the grieving process, but just real quickly, if you've lost a spouse, here's one simple thing to know. Freud explained it. He explained something called a need integrate. When you fall in love with someone, you live with them for years and years and years, your brain changes. We all instinctively need love. We need a validation. We need appreciation. We need safety. We need connection, security. That's a need. But when your need is met by your partner for many, many years, what happens is your brain stops being in touch with, I need these things. And it just says, I need him or I need her. And if I need her and she's not there, then your brain goes, then I can never have love. I can never get what I need. And that's the pain that we all feel when we're grieving, is in the subconscious mind, we are feeling the pain of never having love again because our brain thinks we can't have love again. You can't have their love, but so many people can love you and you can get the love and you can get the special love of an intimate relationship. But your brain says, no, I can't. I'm bonded to that person. That's called a need integrate. It's biological. You have to change the wiring in your brain, but you can't change it until you have a clarity that I'm over here grieving and the pain. You see, when I grieved for 2 years. I mean, I wailed. I did the whole thing, just wailed and wailed and wailed and whatever. And my friends all said, but John, don't you know that she's happy in heaven? I said, of course I know that. Death is a celebration. But my subconscious mind doesn't know that. It's missing her. It wants her. It can't live without her. I want it to die. All those things happen. Why? Because I need love and I want to be loved. And the way you train your brain to stop being so attached to that person as the only source of love is by starting to date again and going slow. You've got to start giving the brain the experience of getting love from others. And it can start with getting love from loving your children, loving your friends, loving yourself. But if you're bonded to a special romantic relationship or a life partner, if you want to heal this, you've got to start going on those dates, but don't jump into the whole thing. And for men will tend to jump into the thing. Just don't make a commitment, because for men, it's a rebound. They tend to be a little confused. They're like a man on a desert. You get out of the desert, and whatever you eat is a bagel, is like a French restaurant, It's like fantastic because I haven't had it in 30 years. Okay. So he's feeling starving for this feminine love. So you can overreact to it. So when you're dating somebody who's out of a relationship, you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. It's sincere, but they're not yet in a balanced state. And the flip side of that is women go into, I'm not going to be in a relationship, That's just propaganda. Your brain is confused, thinking I can never have love again. And you can't have that partner's love again. But as you go through the pain of grieving, and the pain of grieving, if you look in all the prayers where people are upset, complaining to God, people get angry in various ways. They feel sad. They feel alone. They feel powerless. They feel afraid. They feel bad. They feel regret. These are the levels of emotion you have to eventually work through in the grieving process. And I write about that in my books. That's called emotional intelligence. And in all my books, I teach the grieving processes. But you have to have technology for this. You can't just cry all the time. That's not enough. You have to look at the other emotions that go along with it. And you have to be proactive. And now, okay, that's what I'm going through. You go through waves of this, you'll feel better. And then you come to another wave, and your friends all go, when are you going to get over it? You just have to just look, I'm having a good time, but I need to go through my waves here. And you do have to go through the waves, a lot of journaling, looking at the pictures, remembering things, crying. That's all part of the process. The more you do it, as long as you come to the other side, which is feeling grateful, feeling happy, feeling excited, and feeling proud of yourself. But maybe in the beginning, it's just gratitude. And then you start doing things where you start noticing, now I'm happier, I'm happier. To be quite honest, having gone through the most painful time in my life, my heart is bigger than it's ever been. And that's the reward we get. It's a difficult, it's a hero's journey. We all have our challenges. We go through them. But when you get through it, you always have more. And that's if you stay in touch with God, write your letters to God, cry out to God. That's one way of journaling. But journaling, talking to a therapist, being in a grieving group is also really, really good, as long as people come back to positivity. You have to always come back to what you're grateful for. Otherwise, you're just producing a lot of estrogen. And they've proven that when you're grieving, you're basically taking cocaine. Okay, it's a big shot of cocaine. They've seen it under MRI scans. The same thing happens. You can get addicted to grieving your whole life. If you don't grieve a little bit and then look at what you're grateful for and go out and have a good time, and then grieve a little bit, look what you're grateful for and go out and have a good time, start getting the love that you weren't getting, that you're not getting anymore, training the brain, I can get that love. And literally there's a change that happens in your brain. And that's what we know now. This is all plastic brain. It literally, even to change your brain from always going to looking at the negative, just don't speak out the negative for a month and start focusing on just keeping that to yourself and expressing the positive, or expressing negative emotions about things that are not that important, like your work and politics and these various things that aren't really personal. What you're doing is changing your brain from putting all your negativity into your personal relationships or into yourself. That stuff's hard to change. Easy to change the wiring in your brain when you're talking about other things that are bothering you. Anyway, so there's a lot to teach. I just need to squeeze some of that out because the grieving process is such a blessing and also the hardest, most painful thing I've ever been through. But each time my heart grew bigger, my wisdom increased, and my ability to find love also continued to grow.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for coming. We hope to see you again.
Okay, good.
Everybody here, on behalf of everybody, we thank you for coming. And we're going to go into our daily breakout rooms.
When we do one moment here, Lori, can we I'm going to look through all the pictures of everybody. And if you liked my presentation, would you give me a little wave?
Yes,
Wave. I just want to see those hands waving. It's all right. The men, you should wave too. I need to know. I hit some nerves here. Thank you. I'm still looking. It means a lot to me because we're not in a room talking together. And so this is so impersonal, but also personal. I got it all. Thank you all so much. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.